Good evening. You're tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. UMNO has appointed Dato Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki as new Secretary General, replacing Deputy Finance Minister Dato Sri Ahmad Maslan. This was decided after the new Supreme Council held its first meeting today. Law and Institutional Reform Minister Dato Sri Azalina Osman Said was made the party's information chief, taking over from Isham Jalil. Dato Sri Tengku Adnan Tengku Mansor was also appointed as UMNO's Treasurer General. In a statement, UMNO said its Supreme Council had agreed to continue supporting the coalition government. Attempted suicide will soon be decriminalised, with amendments to the law to be made during the current Parliament sitting ending April 4th. Deputy Law and Institutional Reform Minister Ramkarpal Singh says the government will table and pass amendments to repeal Section 309 of the Penal Code following the Cabinet's approval. According to him, the government agrees to treat attempted suicide as a public health issue rather than a criminal act. Under Section 309, those found attempting suicide could be jailed up to a year or fined or both. Ramkarpal also revealed that the government plans to amend the Mental Health Act 2001 following several engagement sessions. He said at present, the definitions for those who attempted suicide under the Act was deterring rescue efforts.
Jadi untuk menyenangkan usaha menyelamatkan tersebut, rescue efforts, maka Mental Health Act itu perlu dipindah untuk menyenangkan, untuk mengambil keluar penaklifan seorang yang cuba membunuh diri untuk membolehkan enforcement officers seperti bomba, polis dan sebagainya untuk terus menyelamatkan orang yang ingin cuba membunuh diri tersebut bagi tujuan membawanya ke hospital bagi tujuan penilaian dalam tempoh 24 jam.
Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq urges school canteens to continue operating during Ramadan, even for schools that have less than 10% of non-Muslim students. She says it's important to be inclusive and respect those not fasting as well.
Ya, ada kanak-kanak ini di sekolah rendah tak wajib lagi puasa. Jadi bukan hanya untuk non-Muslim saja. Barangkali ada non-Muslim, ada anak-anak yang Muslim pun yang tidak wajib lagi berpuasa. Jadi kita tak nak ada satu senario mereka makan di store di tepi longkang. Saya tidak mahu situasi sebegitu. Jadi mesti hormati masing-masing punya budaya dan agama dan harus bersifat inklusif. Jadi tidak ada keperluan untuk tutup.
Malaysian Airport Holdings Berhad MAHB will bear the cost of rebranding KLIA and KLIA2 and not the government. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the rebranding focus on marketing the airports as Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 was made following MAHB's request.
He said in a ministerial reply in Parliament today that there is no allocation under Budget 2023 for the rebranding of KLIA terminals, and the cost will be borne by the operator itself. He was asked by Jerantut MP Khairul Nizam Kirudin from Perikatan Nasional about the rationale behind the rebranding and the maintenance of the aerotrain at the airport. In February, Loke announced that the rebranding was expected to take place after the inking of a new cooperating agreement between the government and MAHB by the first quarter. The Seremban MP also said his ministry has given its attention to the matter regarding aerotrain issues. Earlier this month, all aerotrain operations connecting KLIA's main terminal with the satellite terminal have been suspended until further notice. The service was replaced with shuttle buses instead.
The government is currently not considering implementation of a universal basic income scheme due to the country's current financial situation. However, Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli indicates that the possibility of such a scheme may be revisited once Malaysia's fiscal position improves.
We will take it step by step. I think the focus is very clear. I've mentioned this from day one. We need to strengthen fiscal position first. Unless you have a strong fiscal position, not only universal basic income is out of the question, we won't be able to support the kind of cash assistance that we have anyway. Kan? So you go through that step-by-step process. Once you have a strong fiscal position, then you go through the next question, which is, now that we have this amount to spend, how best to spend this to get the best outcome?
Rafizi also clarified that the People's Income Initiative is different from universal basic income, as it has a different objective and targets a specific group. Under Budget 2023, the government has allocated 750 million ringgit for People's Income Initiative to help participants earn between 2,000 and 2,500 ringgit a month through entrepreneurship programs. While Universal Basic Income is a scheme where every citizen receives regular cash payments. The Senior Citizens Bill, expected to be tabled next year, may include penalties for irresponsible children of elderly parents. Professor of Geriatric Medicine Tan Mau Pin discusses whether putting responsibility on children is the right approach towards protecting rights of the elderly.
You know, we've been going through this rhetoric since 1997, when our country first actually responded to the United Nations call to prepare for population aging. Family generally care about older people. The people who do not care are the people who seek to punish. So most of the time, when the older person turns up in a healthcare facility, brought by their children, it is because they can no longer manage that older person, and they do it out of love, not out of the need to dump their parents. So we need to examine societal conscience about how this person got to this stage and why there is no provisions out there to stop someone getting to that level. So while politicians continue to go through that rhetoric, blaming adult children for not looking after their parents, we are not going to move forward. Should not have a judgmental, punitive government. We should have one that cares.
Instead of focusing on punitive measures, Professor Tan calls on the government to focus its resources on empowering senior citizens to live independently and eradicating ageism.
Now, the basic number one principle of actually coming up with that law is to ensure that no policy, no hiring person, so no employer will actually discriminate against older people. So there will be no more ageism. And then the subsequent things that we need to consider what this law needs to encompass is actually protecting vulnerable adults. So here, we should not exclude younger adults who are also potentially vulnerable. So those with disabilities, especially reduced mental learning disability, but also physical disabilities. And there should be provisions to enable them. So all buildings need to be disabled friendly. Hospitals need to be disabled friendly. No one should make decision for that person without ensuring that they have been given every single avenue to be able to receive the information and express themselves.
Professor Tan also highlights the need to protect the elderly from financial scams and allowing them to make advanced decisions.
And there's no law protecting older people against this form of abuse, which is apparently the most common form of abuse in our country. It might be because people are more likely to report financial abuse and other forms of abuses. But that is very much needed. Older people are being scammed all the time. So there needs to be laws to actually incentivize the police forces to actually take action. And then finally, people can leave advanced decisions. So that will actually, because at the moment, if I want to stop my family from resuscitating me, if suddenly my heart stops, they can still override that decision because the law is not, any advance directive is not legally binding. So we should actually allow for people to leave advance directive, making it legally binding, so that, and also the other thing that I could do is appoint a surrogate decision maker or appoint someone with the lasting power of attorney. So there are lots of provisions that we need in our law to ensure our older persons' rights are protected.
Now we'll go for a quick break. Stay with us.
If it is business strategies and leadership insights that you want, catch me, Cynthia Ng, as I talk to experts from the industry every Saturday at 10:30 p.m. right here on channel 501. Also available on all of Astro AWANI's digital platforms.
What's the latest scoop when it comes to companies, markets, and strategies? For everything business and tech related, catch Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani, weekdays 10:30 p.m. across all AWANI platforms.
Welcome back. On to international news. At least 13 people were killed and over 200 injured after a powerful earthquake struck Afghanistan and Pakistan. The 6.5 magnitude quake damaged buildings, triggered landslides, and sent people running into the streets. The earthquake struck on Tuesday evening, centered in a mountainous northeastern region of Afghanistan near the border with Pakistan. Officials say at least 9 people have been killed and 44 injured in Pakistan, while at least 4 people, including a child, were killed in Afghanistan. Hospitals in one Pakistani province were placed under a state of emergency overnight. Many in the affected regions braved near freezing temperatures to sleep outside after the quake, fearing aftershocks. Tremors were felt as far away as the Indian capital New Delhi and Central Asian countries, including Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that 4 new military bases under a defense agreement with the U.S. would be located in various parts of the Philippines. It will include a base in northern Philippines near Taiwan, as well as in Palawan province near the South China Sea, paving the way for greater American presence in key locations as tensions with Beijing linger.
Last month, Marcos granted the U.S. access to 4 sites, in addition to 5 existing ones under the 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperative Agreement, EDCA. Under the agreement, the U.S. can use these sites for joint training and to store military equipment like airplanes and fuel. It will also be allowed to build infrastructures like runway, fuel depots, and military housing. But it will not be a permanent presence. Marcos said the agreement will help them defend the eastern side of their largest island, Luzon, which is the closest major Philippine island to Taiwan. China's foreign ministry, in response to the announcement, said that the U.S. is increasing tensions by putting more military forces in the region, adding that countries should be vigilant and avoid being used by the U.S.
In other news, Beijing warned residents to stay indoors as a sandstorm, the third this month, created a thick haze over the city. Combined with industrial pollution, the haze is pushing air quality in the capital and surrounding areas to its worst level in 2 years.
Beijing's official air quality index reached a maximum level of 500, indicating severe pollution, while some unofficial readings were nearly twice as high. Photos on social media showed people cycling through the city amid swirls of dust, with one showing a bike seat covered in sand. Weather authorities in Beijing warn people not to go outdoors for exercise and other activities, and urge drivers to stay vigilant and reduce speed because of low visibility. Beijing is regularly hit with sandstorms in the spring, with the smog made worse by rising industrial activities and rapid deforestation through northern China.
That report ends the show tonight. On behalf of the AWANI Tonight team, I'd like to wish all Muslims a blessed Ramadan, and till we meet again.